Okay, so good evening, everyone. Welcome to this second session on week one content. So last week we kind of visited some very basic programming concepts. We discussed something about variables. We discussed about typing of variables. We also discussed about method calling, right? What happens when methods are called and how the stack of activation records work. And then we also discussed about this dynamically allocated memory, which is heap, and this scope of variables, lifetime of variables. All these things we discussed, right? So we also discussed about some very simple things about what happens when there is a parent class, child class. All those things you don't have to be worried too much, because that's all in the future weeks. That's what we are going to learn. We also looked at abstract data type. We also looked at few other things like the yeah. So now today, we want to look at one or two other things also. So the first one is, let me just share the screen. Okay, so I hope the screen is visible. It's a plain white screen. Okay. Can someone confirm it's visible, right?
Yes, ma'am. It's visible.
Okay, sure. Thanks. So we want to discuss something like call by value and call by reference. Can someone explain what this is? Does anyone know about it, and you want to give it a try?
Yes. All the values, those that, from what I understood, call by value means like the value of the variable is assigned. So it basically exists on the stack of records, and call by reference means it will be in the heap, but there will be a reference made to the heap. So the whole value of the data is not of the variable is not being like transferred or copied when it is assigned each time, but rather the reference or to the heap where it is, the location in the heap where it is stored.
Right. Yeah. So call by value is something like you're actually copying the actual value, whereas in the case of call by reference, you're copying the reference. Okay. Now I'll explain to you what that is. So suppose you have a function, say, the last time we checked, right, is negative in C. Okay. This is some method. Yeah? And from some other method, say my square root function, I have and I'm going to invoke is negative of B. So what is happening here is you have the memory location, right? So for this is the activation requires activation. So this is say AR of which one will be the bottom square root will be here. So main is all here somewhere. Okay, so this is the square root. The AR of is negative is here. Okay. So in this one you have B, right? In this one you have C. Correct? C is local to is negative and B is local to square root. Now, when you are invoking a method like this, what happens is whatever is the value here, that is getting copied to the memory location denoted by C. So this value, say suppose this was 10, this 10 is actually getting copied here. This is the call by value. This method square root is invoking the method is negative by using the exact value. What happens in the case of reference? So suppose I want to find, say, some method, say compute salary of some employee. Okay. So last time I told you like this employee is a data type that user defined data type. Right? That's something we have declared. And inside this, in order to compute the actual salary, I have to compute the bonus of this employee. So I'm invoking say get bonus E, and I have the definition of get bonus method here. So for now, I'm kind of ignoring all the employee FC. Now here what happens is here again, the compute salary method is invoking the get bonus method with an object of employee as the parameter. And here this is receiving that object. What happens here in the activation record, right? So you have the activation record of compute salary here. Then you have the activation say get bonus, right? You have the heap. So heap is generally here, but I'll just demonstrate it for ease. Okay, so there is this object of employee. This object is not residing here. Last time I told you, it is only a pointer to the object E that is actual employee is here. The name of the employee, the salary of the employee, the bonus of the employee, the ID of the employee, or is all of these are allocated inside the heap. When this call is made, the get bonus call is being made here, right? This F is actually getting the value of E, but the value of E is an address to the memory location where the actual E is. So now E contains a memory location A10B or something. This is something like hexadecimal is what I mean. Okay, so A10B, and F also now gets A10B. A10B happens to be the memory location of this, this A10. Memory location of this object E. So even though in both cases, the content of E is actually copied to the content of, so here the content of B is copied to C, and here the content of E is copied to F. In both cases, there is a difference. The first one, the actual value is getting copied, whereas here it is the reference or the address of the object which is being copied. Now, what is the difference? Suppose in this case, say in the case of in C, say I'm saying C is C plus 1, okay, whatever value I got. So here I got 10. Now this updates the C value as 11. Does the B value get updated? Does the C value get updated? Sorry, B value get updated here?
No.
I'm saying C equal to C plus 1. So does the B value get updated?
No.
No, because these are two different memory locations. I'm only asking whatever is there inside the C variable, you just increment it. That's all what I'm saying. Okay, whatever is there inside the C variable, you just increment it, what I'm saying. So why would the B variable get updated, right? Whereas in the case of call by reference, suppose I say that, okay, F dot name, say F is employee, right? F's name, I'm going to change it to some new name. Now what happens is I have copied the address of E to F. So both E and F are now pointing to the same memory location. When I say F dot name equal to new name, what I'm changing is nothing in the activation record. Instead, I'm editing something inside the heap, which is this name field, which I'm editing it as new name. Now, when I ask to print E dot name, right, the E dot name will also be updated because E is also pointing to the same memory location. This is the difference between call by value and call by reference. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Does anyone have any questions on that?
So the value of B and C changes in call by reference, like they both become 11.
No, B and B, okay. So B, in the case of Java, right? So this, what do you say, the primitive data types, no? They are actually by default copied as values. Whereas arrays, objects, these are all allocated memory in the whatever are dynamically allocated memory, right? Or to use the new new method. No? New method, what does the new keyword means? There is a memory being allocated in the heap. Whatever gets the memory allocated in the heap, those things are generally copied as call by reference. Whereas the primitive data types, which are allocated memory in the stack itself, they are actually copied by value. There may be exceptions. I'm talking to you in general. So if you say something like this scenario applies all the time in Java. Say, for instance, you have an in B and in C, then only if you update the C value, it is not reflected here. The same way, if you update f.name and you have just passed the variable E, then the E value is also updated. So this happens in Java because the employee E is actually allocated a new memory location, which is inside the heap, and both the variables are referring to that point. So for an object, for an array, for whatever are dynamically allocated memory, right, which are located in the heap, say it's a linked list, which are located in the heap, these are called, these are copied as call by reference only. So only the address memory location, address gets copied. Got it?
Yes.
So there are other things also which are coming later. Say, for instance, you have something called as cloning in Java. Those things are coming well later, just mentioning. Where, when you're saying, okay, you want to clone an object of E and create an object of F, then an exact copy of E is created in the heap, which both will have different address locations. So that means you only want to update F only. You do not want whatever changes are done to F, you do not want it to be applied on E. So in that case, you can say that I want to clone the object. That is possible. Okay, so that is coming much, much later. But if you understand this call by reference, call by value, wherein, whichever objects are dynamically allocated memory in the heap, right? In general, these are call by reference, and the values which are allocated space in the activation record, these are call by value. Okay, now, so last week I said something about the control link pointing to the next line after the method invocation, right? So somebody said, and even in lectures, it is mentioned that it's actually pointing to the previous activation record. So for now, please take it accepted or take it granted that it is just pointing to the previous activation record. Eventually, there has to be some place, right? It could be this control link, or it could be inside the activation record where the return address has to be saved. Otherwise, the program will not know where to resume the control from. So if somebody asks you where the control link is, right? So control link is something that gives you an information as to where to return to. So now in the lectures and in many other places also, I've seen that is actually pointing to the caller methods activation record. So from then on, there probably you will have access to the return address or whatever. But the idea of control link is to know where you want to go back to after this function execution is completed. Okay. Okay, so my tab has some issues. Give me a second. Just give me a second. Okay, so that is about this thing. So yeah, so there is something about subtyping and inheritance, right? So subtyping and inheritance has been quite confusing for many people. So subtyping is like, say you have an employee, say the same thing. Say you have an employee. Say you have an employee, then you can have, say, manager, clerk. So you have attender. These are all employees, right? But if you say employee is a type, manager is a subtype, clerk is another subtype, attender is yet another subtype. So what it means is that, of course, manager has all the properties of the employee. Correct? Because if manager has to be a subtype of the employee, one second. Forget about what I said, all the features of employee, forget about it. Okay. Idea is, if the manager is a subtype of B, where you need an object of employee, right? Okay, the other way, wherever you need an, yeah. One second. Okay. Okay. So manager is a subtype of B, right? So manager is a subtype of employee. Sorry. Now, wherever you need to use the employee, right? Wherever you need to use the employee, you can use the manager. It's not in terms of Java that I'm talking about. In the case of Java, the subtyping as well as the concept of inheritance, these are both used together using what is known as an extends keyword, that we will come to it. But here, manager is a subtype of an employee. Then wherever you need an object of, I think I'm confusing, I'm sorry.
Subtype is.
Ma'am, you mean to say employee is a class or like manager is an instance of that thing? Do you mean to say that?
No. I mean, these are all types. Manager is a type, clerk is a type, attender is a type, employee is a type.
Okay.
Only thing, manager is a subtype of employee, clerk is a subtype of employee, attender is a subtype of employee.
Okay.
When I say subtype, it is like this is the main type, right? Okay, this is the main type and this subtype. So I'm always getting confused with the inheritance concept. So let me
Ma'am, you mean to say like that the employees has certain properties. Same properties will be there in these three types also. You mean to say?
So that is something that we explain with respect to inheritance. Okay, you are inheriting. Say you have a parent, right? So you have inherited a number of almost all the things like their money or whatever, right? I mean, you have inherited, but additionally you have acquired some things of your own. So that is what we say by, so you have a manager. Okay, so the manager has all the properties of employee plus additional features. So this is the inheritance. This is the concept of inheritance.
Ma'am,
Got it? Yeah.
I think this is subtype.
I think that is subtyping. What do we explain right now?
Ma'am, in the lectures, I think the distinction is clear.
This is the other way, is it?
No.
Maybe
In the lectures, the explanation is that for subtype, it is basically with reference to the interfaces, and inheritance is with respect to the implementation.
Yeah.
So employee, if it has a bunch of interfaces, like say get employee name, get so some interfaces that you have.
Right.
So those interfaces will all be applicable to manager, clerk, and attender, plus certain additional interfaces.
Got it. Okay. So
and
about inheritance?
Inheritance can have its own implementations. So it can have, so even let's say if I get employee itself, I can have my own implementation of get employee.
Okay. Okay. So let me just explain to you with respect to Java. Okay. So you have say employee here. Okay. Then maybe. Okay. So you have say, as you said, get employee name, right? Get salary. You have all these methods, right? Then you have say manager. Manager also has the get employee name, right? Because actually you don't even have to explicitly write it. Whatever is applicable here is applicable here also, right? Now you take another one, say get number of employees reporting or something. People who are reporting to the manager, right? This will not be there in the case of clerk and attender, right? This is a subtype, sorry, a type which is different. So this has an additional implementation, sorry, additional interface, or I mean rather
A method, yeah.
Yeah. So this is actually Subtyping, right? Yeah, got it. Okay, so this is subtyping. So this has all the features that it has, and this is a subtyping. Now, what you meant by inheritance is yes. So get employee name for employee has one particular implementations, and here you can have a different implementation for this one, right? That's what you mean, correct? This can have a entirely different implementation, correct? No?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So in the case of Java, this is actually both happen together in the sense that if you say you have an employee class and you have a manager extends, this is the keyword, okay, extends small e, extends employee, then you get all the methods from here. And for these methods, you can have your own implementations with some additional methods, in their own implementations. So the subtyping plus inheritance happens together in Java using this extends keyword.
So ma'am, just now you said like, so when in case of inheritance, so the child class or maybe the manager, they can have their own methods.
Methods, yeah.
They can have the same method as a parent class also, just
Correct,
like
correct.
get employee name.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
Okay. See, suppose you have get employee name here, okay? And there is some definition for it, okay? And you may or you may not write this get employee name here. If you write it here, then you say that the manager class is overriding the method inside employee class. This method, you are overriding whatever is the implementation inside the employee class. If you don't override it, it is still okay. Then it will go and invoke the method inside the employee class.
So there is no way I can call the parent class get employee name. See, on the manager instance,
even when you have an implementation here is what you mean?
Yeah, even though we have here, I want to call the parent class get employee
using
name.
An object of manager is what you mean?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Dhanya, can I answer? Right.
Yeah, you are in the call. Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Please save me from the subtyping confusion.
No, it's just there is a super keyword. It's basically a reference to the parent. You can use the super keyword to call any of the method which is not private, obviously. So that's possible from the parent class.
So how many super we can use? Suppose we have multiple child hierarchy. So how many super keywords we can use? Suppose
Super always call the immediate one. So if you want to go further, which is top on that, say
yes,
I'm having A, B, C.
Correct.
From C, if I'm making super, means I refer to B. Now B to C, if you want to do, so from that method, again you have to call a super.
From which method? From the C or like from the B? I need to call the A.
You, say you are having a get method.
We have arrived at now. From there,
I'm telling you.
Call super again for the previous one.
Yeah, I'm just telling. Say A is having a version of get name. B is having a get name. C is having a get name. Now from C's get name, you want to call the get name of B, right? So it's a super dot get name, which will give you the get name of B. Now you want to also access the get name of C. So in the get name of B, you need to give again a super get name that will call the get name of A.
From which function, which class? From the B.
A, B, C. In C, if you use a super, you're calling it from B. From B, if you use a super, then you're calling it from A.
Okay. So in this case, don't you think I need to remember how many if I have the parent or what? So just in case, I mean, it may be a vague question, sir. Suppose I don't have parent, okay, but still I try to call the super thing. Will I get the error?
You have to try it. There is a class called as an object class, which is inherited by all the Java classes. But the call by default goes to that or not, we need to check once.
So is it who is asking question? Harishankar, is it?
Yeah, ma'am. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm not sure. Like I just asked like that only. So sorry.
Yeah, you can check
that's
it
okay.
once.
Yeah, that's okay. But see, the thing is, there is no C doesn't have any confusion, because as long as it is extending from B, there is no confusion. Whenever you invoke super, it is going to B only, right? From B, it is to A only. From A, if you try to invoke, that is where Arup said we have to check whether it is invoking the object class. And you have no confusion about which is C's parent, because you can only inherit from exactly one class. So from
Yeah.
C, you cannot be like, you are inheriting from B, you are inheriting from D or anything. You can inherit only from one class. So when you invoke super, it is always from the B class.
Yeah, because my question was like, suppose in case we don't, if there is a parent class is not there, so even though we call, so it might get error. So the limitation is like that. If you see the functionality wise, from the C class, I need to know the implementation of the class B, ma'am. So that is kind of, is a violation of the abstract abstract feature. So I cannot,
If you
yeah.
want to see the implementation of B from C, you're
I
having
don't want to
something.
see. No, I don't want to see. What I'm saying,
Okay.
I need, when I'm calling from C to B, right? I must have information of the B. Okay. Then only I can put the function like a super function.
No, see, you are by
Yeah.
definition, you are a child of B, right? So that means you have implemented certain things and you are adding on to it. So naturally, you know what are the things there in B, right? You should know. As if you're inside C is what you mean. You are inside C and you are saying, I don't know anything what is there in B. Because you are inheriting from B, you know that you are inheriting a number of methods because those methods are very much part of you. See, this get employee name, get salary method, right? These are there inside the manager method also. Even if you don't override, these things will get invoked, right? I mean, those, what I mean is, without knowing the structure of the parent, you cannot inherit from the parent.
Yeah, so that's what my thing was like. We need to expose that, reveal that implementation of the.
No, you are not implementing the. No, you are not implementing. See, okay. What is the purpose? What is your requirement? Can you tell me what your requirement
Because see,
is?
I just put this question in terms of the abstraction, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. So when we say abstraction, I don't care about that. I don't care about my what was the implementation. Okay.
So where are you invoking this method from? From inside some method inside C?
Yeah, from the C, I was trying to invoke B. Then
Yeah,
from
why
B,
do you want to do that?
yeah.
And can you
So
tell me the purpose?
there
Why
should
you
have been
want
a way, like sir has mentioned. Okay, if even the parent is not there, I should not be facing any problem. Okay. Yeah. If I don't know the parent, if I had the parent class or not, my code should not be fail.
So why would you even invoke a super method if you don't have a parent? Because your structure, C extends B is part of your definition. It is not part of your parent's definition. So you know that you are extending B.
Yes, ma'am. This is, you are just right now telling about 1 or 2 level hierarchy. When we do the real-time implementation, we go multiple.
Yeah, then D knows, okay, I am extending from A.
So I think,
C doesn't.
ma'am, I think, I think we should. I think this is a very different topic. We should not be. I'll do research on this part. No problem. You can continue on that topic. So other people time should not be wasted.
Okay. Sure.
I got from here. I'll do research on this thing. Actually, I'll try to find something on this.
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah.
Arup, I just had one request also regarding the subtype, right? Do you want to explain that? Or no, I'm not. I got a little confused.
Subtype in a mathematical way, I say B is a subtype of A if the features of A is a subset of features of B. So simple, through Java inheritance, what A will have, B will definitely have that and having some extra. That's a mathematical way, right? So from the point of programming way, it is about the capability and the implementation. Capability means I'm telling what I can do, but I'm not telling how I can do it. That's my capability. So suppose A is telling, I'm having capability, I can get you the salary information. I'm having the capability, I can get you the employee name information. But I do not know how A has implemented that. Now, if B has the same capability and some extra capabilities, right? Then I'll say B is a subtype of A. Simple way. Now, if I do the same thing, as per the implementation wise, it becomes a inheritance. I'll say what are the implementation there inside A. B also have the same implementation along with some extra implementation. That's programming concept. Now in Java inheritance, if you look at, if you say I'm inheriting A, B is inheriting A, so that means I get the capabilities as well as I also get the implementation, right? because in Java, it's basically a code reuse usability. Whenever you do a inheritance, it says any non-private member of A will be just come into B. That means whatever the capabilities, like what A can do, those also things will come into B, along with how A will do those things will come into B. Now, it depends on B. What are the implementation A is giving to me, I'll take it or not. But it is given to me, right? So that's basically we say in case of Java, inheritance, the inheritance and the subtyping happens together. That's all.
Sir, if there are private methods or variables in A, then
That's why I
do we
told
have to?
non-private. I
Okay.
specifically told non-private.
If there are in A, then will they be also in B? I mean,
See,
if subtyping is
if
allowed.
you go architecture wise, like how object is created inside the memory, actually the private, the entire object of A becomes a sub object of B. It's something like that. It becomes a part of B object. But the thing is, if it's a private member, also B is having that, right? But B do not have the capability to access it. That's the thing is, it's not the non-private thing won't comes into the B, the child class. It will come, but B do not have a capability to access it. So if some properties of A is not visible into B, so I'll say B cannot access it, right? So that's the thing
Yes,
is,
sir.
but that doesn't mean it do not come. You get something from your parent, but that is not accessible to you. That's all.
Yes, sir. But in this case, can we call it a subtype? Like,
Yeah, I'm telling the both the things are achieving in the same way. We have it. See, whenever we talk about the capabilities, whenever we are talking about the subtype, it just say what I can do, right? I say I can do this, I can do that, right? If you say you are inheriting me, then means what are my capabilities? You will also have the same capabilities along with some extra capabilities. That's all. Now, whenever I talk about the inheritance, I talk about the implementation. So, what about the capability? I talk about how I do it, right? What is the implementation details, right? Now, suppose you are given with a television, right? Suppose I just tell about a display device, right? Think about a display device. So, what should be a capability of display device? It should display something, simple way. But I do not know how it is displayed. I don't bother. But now somebody say a television inherits a display device. Now it should have the minimum capability to display something, right? The extra capability like it should telecast a particular channel and you can change the channel. Those are the extra capabilities. So I'm just talking about the capabilities right now, right? If I say a display device is inherited into a, I say into a projector, right? So it is having the capability of display something, but the way of displaying the thing it's different from how television displays, right? So implementation wise the subtypes are different, right? But as per the capability, both having the same capability what the display device has. So whenever I just talk about the capability what I can do, I talk about the subtyping. But whenever I also consider how display device will display the fact, then immediately come into mind it's basically an inheritance. Now, what very specifically told here that whenever we do a inheritance in Java, both the things happens together. So the moment you say extends, right? So Java having a very clear definition of these terms extends. Extends means a old class extended to a new class, right? A old class extended to a new class. Suppose you are having a class which is representing a display device. So which write what is your capability? Capability in terms of Java, it is the declaration of a method, which also we call as an interface, right? A declaration of the method, that the heading of the function, right? In a simple way we say. Now what happens? I know the capability, as well as in that class also it is written how a display device in minimum should implement that, right? Now, whenever I say television extends a class display device, that means television class I'm not writing from the scratch. I'm taking the display class and I'm writing some code extra. Means I may add certain function declaration along with some definition. It's a simple way to understand this. Am I clear?
Yes, sir. Very much clear. Thank you, sir.
Anybody want to ask anything else?
So in inheritance, so can we access private methods?
Yeah, that is what I was accessing. Whenever I'm telling, every time I'm telling that non-private members, you need to understand that whenever you're having a parent class or child class structure, we say all the features of the child parent class will arrive into the child class. But the question is, I'll get the features, but those are accessible to my child class or not. Now, whenever we say the accessibility, then the private members are not accessible to child class. It's a simple way you can understand. Say your parents having a house, right? Where some rooms are open, it's given access, you can enter there, you can do anything, and some rooms are locked, right? Now you are inheriting the same building from your parents, right? Now you are getting the entire thing, but you need to understand you can access whose door are open. You cannot access the particular rooms whose door are closed. So that's why the private members will arrive into your class as a child, but you cannot access them. These are not visible to you, right? If those features are not visible to you, there is no way you can utilize them, right? You are getting the building, but some room are closed. So what is the point to have that room, right? So
Yes.
that's why the private class we say cannot be inherited, but actual fact they comes into the child class, but it's not visible. They are not accessible to you. Is it okay now?
Yes, sir.
So there is no point to inherit the private. That's why. What I'll do for getting something what I cannot use, right? I'm getting something from my parent, but I cannot use it. So there is no point to have it, right? Yes. So that's why private say, normally saying it's the statement is private cannot be inherited that way. Not somebody is writing public and non-private. Non-private is the correct term because other than public, there is type called as the package type. There could be a type which called protected. They are called would be also inherited as well as could be accessed. Only private cannot be done, right? So that's why it's a better term to understand that non-private rather than saying public. Anybody anything else? Anybody anything else? Yeah.
Sir, am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes, yes.
Sir, in the case of subtype, you were saying something about the mathematical expression. So mathematically, we can say if A is subtype of B, then A is superset of B mathematically.
Yes, like that. Yes, 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 yes.
Okay.
Sub means superside. Yeah. The opposite, reverse. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yes. That could be one mathematical understanding of this. Yeah.
Activity 5, there is one question of subtyping. So can you explain the MCQs given there? I did not understand.
I'm not able to understand. Can you be a little louder? Some problem. I don't know.
But there is one question on subtyping like of activity 5. So can you explain the MCQs? I didn't understand these MCQs.
Yeah, those things we will check it. So, and whatever questions you have doubt, we will check it there. Okay. Yeah, that will come to. Just before that, we have one topic to. After that, we will come to questions for which you have doubt. Okay. That's okay, Naru. Or you want to discuss that question now, Naru?
I think if students are okay, I am also okay.
Okay.
They
No,
have to
otherwise we can share the
understand.
question.
Yeah, yeah.
No, we can share the question now then if you want to. Is
No,
it-
no, no. You can do it after.
Okay. I just wanted to explain about classes and objects also. Just
Yes,
one
yes,
brief,
yes. Please, please.
brief. Yeah, then we'll go to the. Okay. So, everyone clear about the subtyping and inheritance and whatever, the capability of that's what, yeah, I got into confusion. So, if you have any questions, please ask. It's clear, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, will you cover dynamic lookup? Like, wasn't
Yeah.
clear.
No, not this week, no? That is coming later, right?
No,
There
ma'am.
little bit is
No,
this time. is
There are questions in assignments.
Okay, then we'll see. Yeah, okay. Sure, we'll see that. Sure. Okay, we'll see that. But before that, let me just briefly explain the structure of what is a class, what is a object, and how is it with respect to Java, right? Okay. Okay. So in Java, like we define a type using the keyword class. Okay. Say you have class student. This means you are now identifying a type of a student. This student is a type, user defined type. Okay. You start with an open braces. Now you can declare what is known as a data. So for every class, right, it has two parts. One is the data and the other is the methods. So in the case of object-oriented programming, the focus is on the data. There is a data-centric approach, as we call it. So the idea is to have the data kept in a way that it can be accessed or it is available to the outside world only through these methods. So you have some data for a class, and this data is accessible, or this data can be operated upon by using only these methods which are permitted. Say, for instance, in the case of stack, right, you have the data which is the top of the stack. If you want to push an element into the stack or pop an element out of the stack, right, you cannot use an intermediate. Say, for instance, you have the stack here. You have the top here. If you want to push an element or pop an element, you have to use the methods push and pop which are given as part of the stack. You cannot say that I want to access, say, S of 2. Right? This element, you cannot say that I want to access S of 2. This is not permitted in the case of stack. But the stack, this array or whatever linked list or whatever it represents is private. You have access only to this top of the stack through the methods push and pop, which are given as part of the data type stack. Clear, no? So same way, we are defining a student. So we use the word private. Okay, we can use private, protected. These things will come later. Just to define, I'm giving you some example. And there is also one which is known as default, where we don't write default. Instead, we just leave it without anything, without any prefix, which means it is a default mod. We call it as modifier, access modifiers or access specifiers. Okay. So you have, say, private roll number. Sorry, data type you have to mention. So private string roll number. Okay. Then you have private string name. These are the two data for the student, suppose. Now, if you want to access the roll number and the name, we have to have some methods. There are names for these methods, but we will discuss these things later. So I say, now this is the method that I'm going to define. This is the data. Okay, data, which is private. These are the methods which I'm going to define. Okay. Public string, get roll number. Return. So those who are new to Java, right? I mean, last session, I remember people saying totally new to Java. Please interrupt me whenever you have a doubt. Okay. So this is the structure of a method. This first word, we say it as the access specifier. So as I said, it could be public, private, protected, or you can leave without writing anything. You can just say string get roll number. In that case, we say that it is default access modifier. All of these are separate purposes. For now, we'll just look at the public. These access specifiers are coming in a later week. So for now, we'll just look at public so that it makes your life public and private for data and public for methods. It makes your life easy. Okay. So this method is used to access this variable, which is a private data member of this class. So these are all data members of this class, which you also call as the instance variables of the class. Instance variables of the class are the ones that are defined outside of all the methods in the class. These are generally, you can of course declare these also as public, protected, default and everything, but generally the data within the class is declared as a private variable, and these are referred to as instance variables. Now this method, right, this method has this structure where you have an access modifier where I'm using it. Now it is using it as public. This next value, whatever is there, it is known as the return type. So in the case of Python, I think you don't have to specify what kind of data type you are returning, right? But in Java, it is mandatory to specify what data type you are going to return from a method. And if you say string is a return type, then you must necessarily have a return statement in that method, which will return a string value. This roll number is this one. Get roll number is the method name. And here, just like Python, you can have a no argument method, or you can also have arguments here. And then you open the braces. Whatever are the sentences which are, Java statements which are required inside this method, you write it, and then you close the braces. This is the structure of a Java program. Okay, so I have opened the class. I have to close the class braces also. So this is the opening braces of the class. This is the closing brace of the class. This is the opening brace of this method. This is the closing brace of this method. Okay, now I'm just not closing it. I'm going to add another method, which is a standard method, public. For now, just accept it as, accept these things will be explained the next next week content. Okay, public static void main string args. This is a standard method definition for the main method in Java. Okay. So what the static method means is something I'll explain it. But before that, you can see the structure. This is public. Void is a return type. Main is the name of the method, and string args is the arguments, the parameters which are required for this main method. So I've defined another method inside this class, which is again public. Now I close the class. Now, if I create, say, so whatever happens in Java happens inside a class. Suppose I want to create an instance of student class, right? I can actually create it inside the void main method itself. Even though the main method is inside class student itself, I can actually create student s equal to new student inside the main method itself. Or I can also have another, say, class as my class. Public void my method student s equal to new student. So here what is happening is, in this definition, right, from here, say from this one to this braces, right, what is happening is you are defining a template for a type. This is a data type that you are creating. You are specifying, okay, the data for this data type are these instance variables, and the methods or the behavior or the operations which I can do on this data are defined by the methods of this type. Now, as such, the class is not useful unless you instantiate the class. That is, you create an object for the class, which is what you are doing by saying student s equal to new student. When you say student s equal to new student, inside the heap memory, there is a location, there's a set of locations, memory locations, which are allocated in order to save the data which is specific to that particular object. See, here it is S. So suppose I create, okay, this is outside. So I create another object, say student S1 equal to new student. Right? Now S1 has a totally different set of memory locations. So whenever I say new, it's a new set of memory locations which are identified for this, allocated for this variable. So for S, there is a set of locations which are identified. For S1, there is another set of locations which are identified, which means that, so if you look at the memory, right? So you have memory allocated for S. So here you have the name variable, here the roll number, right? For S1, you have the name, the roll number, etc. Right? So here the name will be, say, something like and here it will be say Shyam. So even though the class template, which is student, right, it has this variable name, every instance of the class has different values for this variable. So when we declare, say, in a method as a variable inside a method, right? So you have you give some value, say A or B or anything. Throughout running of the program in Python, you find that has the same value, right? But here, if you have declared two variables S1 and S2, and if you say S1 name of S, if you allocate something, that will be a different variable because that's a totally different memory location. And here it is a totally different memory location. So both names and both roll numbers will be different. Two objects, the objects are the ones that actually occupy the memory space. And that is where you are actually updating the actual values. The name, the roll number, whatever you've declared inside the class are only templates, are only like, you know, the blocks where you have to fill something, you have to put in something. You say that this is a template, this is what you are duplicating, this is what you are making a copy of. You are making something out of this and you are actually adding data. Is this clear?
What are you referring to when you say instance variables?
Sorry?
What are instance variables?
What are instance variables? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, instance variables are these variables, you know, the name, whatever are like outside any method, right? Whatever you have written here, no, these variables. Whatever are not part of any method. So for an instance, say S. So you call S an object, right? S is an instance of class student, right? So S has instance variables, roll number and name. S1 is an instance of class student and it has instance variables with specific values for name and roll number. So instance variables are the variables which are outside of any method in the class. There are other, sorry,
Can we define the same, the instance, variable, right? For the outside the public static void, this main method also, can we define outside this class function also?
No, whatever you define inside the main method is local variable.
No, outside this thing, ma'am. Like
yeah,
just now.
These variables are outside. No?
Okay. So inside the class student, you're calling the public static void main, right? No.
No, I didn't understand.
No.
Oh, okay, so this variable, S variable is what you're asking?
No. What I'm saying, the where you're defining public static void main, is it inside the student class?
Yeah. This is the end of student class.
Is it inside the student class, ma'am? This public static void main you have defined here.
Yeah, I'll tell you. This is the beginning of student class definition.
Yeah. So
and
you have defined some
end
method.
of student class. End of student class definition. This one, this closing braces.
Okay.
And so you have one method here, which is public static void main. You have another method here, which is public string. I will write it more neatly.
Okay. So you meant to say this public static is inside that student class, right?
Every method has to be inside some class. Every method, including the main method, has to be inside the.
So is it mandatory that every class has a main method?
No, it is not mandatory. It is not mandatory.
Okay, so the main method is required primarily for.
Main method is the entry point. See, suppose you have a .java file and you have a number of classes inside that. Okay. So the way only one of those classes can have the main method. And when you're compiling this class and trying to execute it, the entry point to the execution starts from this main method.
Okay. Okay.
Any
So
number
then-
of classes you can add in the .java file, but only one method one class can have the main method.
But ma'am, if you say this is the entry point of any of the class, right? The public static void main. Okay, then in that case, the compiler will that execute this private string, roll number, these two variables?
No, it will not execute unless you invoke it inside the main method. Nothing will get executed. These are all like templates. This will just remain there until this is invoked. I will tell you when it gets invoked. Okay, just give me a minute. So class student, let us just put it this way. Okay, this stops at the template. Now I am writing, okay, my class. Okay, I'm going to define it differently from what I did above. Please note that. Okay, here I'm going to have the public static void main. Okay. The main method, as I said, should be inside some class. Okay. Right now I say student s equal to new student. Okay. Sorry, I don't need this. I'm saying s dot get roll number. You get it?
Yes, ma'am. This is right, actually, ma'am. This is what I saw somewhere, not the before one. Yeah.
Yeah, you can have the main method inside the student also. Then you write student is equal to new student s dot get roll number also. You can do it inside the student class also. You can do it. Main method.
If both of the classes have the main method, then which will
no, both classes we cannot have main method. You give a compilation error. Main method inside the same Java file.
Only one main method per file.
Correct. Yeah. And see, one condition is wherever the main method is there, that should be the name of the Java file also. See, for instance, you are having the main method inside my class, right? Then the file should be saved as myclass.java.
And ma'am, what are local variables here?
Sorry?
Local variables.
Local variables, see here, S is a local variable, whereas roll number and name are instance variables of student class. Yes, is inside some method, right? So S is a local variable.
Ma'am?
If you have declared some variable here, which is outside of any method, those are instance variables. Whatever you have declared inside some method, where the scope is local. Say, for instance, you have some for loop, right? For int I equal to 0, I less than. If you write a for loop here, right? For int I, right? This is a local variable, this I. This S is a local variable because this is all local. I is local to this for loop, S is local to this main method, whereas this roll number and name are not local to method, but instead these are variables which are properties or which are data of that particular class. You get it?
Yes. So instance variables have global scope.
Instance variables
have global scope.
No, there is no global scope. There is no global scope. See, you cannot access roll number from here. You cannot just say that roll number here. It doesn't work. You cannot even say s dot roll number because the roll number is a private data, right? So you cannot access this roll number value from my class because this variable private string roll number is private to this class. So you cannot access it from inside my class by simply saying s dot roll number. That's why we have this method which will return, which is returning the roll number, which is returning this value. When you say return roll number, it is returning this value. So you have to use some method of this type to obtain that value. And whatever is permitted by the student class only, you can access it from the main method. Sorry, this is my class.
Ma'am, can you write a sample code in the real-time Java thing so we can better understand that thing?
Yeah. So before that, just one more thing. Okay. So the one thing is like every individual object has a different copy of data. This is clear, right? Do not be confused between the class and the object. Every object has a different data, different copy. Say the roll number for one object, say S, will have some name. That is what I have shown it here. Please try to understand this. For instance, for S, the data, right? The name is a different value. For S1, this has a different. So every object has a different copy of the data which has been given by the template class. So when you say some object dot name, please do not assume that all the objects have that name. Whatever is a specific object, the data is very specific to that object. So this is some confusion that many people have. The other thing is there is something called as constructor for a class. When you are saying student S equal to new student, okay? So before writing the program, this is required, and that's why I'm going for this, okay? So you have, say, class student, okay? As I said, private. Okay, maybe I'll just demonstrate in a program. That might be easier, right? Whenever I want to draw something, I'll come back. Let me just stop sharing this and go to some other IDE. Give me a second.
Ma'am?
Ah.
Ma'am, are you going to explain the inside the void main? You wrote that 3 chunks. Are you going to explain that now, or is it for later, ma'am?
You want to leave?
No. Ma'am, I was just asking that the.
We'll come to that. No, we'll come to that.
Okay.
Just give me a second, okay? Let me just create. Just give me a second.
Yeah, Danya, can I add something like just?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, just if you have a pen or paper or notepad, you can just write some points so that whenever I will explain, you will understand the points properly. See, in Java, we cannot have global data or global variable or global method. So that is not possible. Nothing is global, right? So every function or method or every variable has to be part of some class or some method, right? So now, whenever having the particular variables declared within a method, we call it as a local variable. Local variable means its scope is limited within a method, right? Now, whenever the scope of a variable is within a class, means you are declaring it within a class, right? Then it's called an instance variable. Instance variable. Now, why it called instance variable? Its scope actually within an object, within an instance, not within a class. Actually, within the braces we declare that this is my variable, but actual scope becomes inside the class. So if I say class employee, then we within the bracket we say int roll number. So every object of employee will have individual roll number. So for employee A, if I change the roll number, that will be reflected for the object of employee A. If I change the roll number of employee B, that will be reflected on B. So that's the thing. So those are called instance variable whose scope is within the object and defined within the brackets which defines a class, right? There is also some concept which will come to know afterwards, that's called class variable, not instance variable. Those are basically the static variables whose accessibility is within the class. So if you have a class variable, so for all the objects of the class, there will be one variable. So if I call it for object A or object B or object C, the same variable will be modified. So 3 ways it could happen. It could be local, means within a method. It could be instance variable, which works for a specified instance, which is local to a object, right? Or it could be a class variable, which is a static variable whose scope is entire class, means all the object of the same class will be able to access it. Okay. Now, main function, right? So main function, as Tanya told, it is the entry point of a program, right? From where your program will start. Now, question is, somebody was saying, if I write the main function in 2 methods, how do we understand? Actually, compiler do not understand. So if you do not say explicitly, it will give you an error because it do not know which class to start with, right? because it is seeing the same entry point in both the classes. So it's ambiguous for Java, but Java having some way to solve this problem. So whenever you are having many classes, right? So how do you specify which class is the entry point? So by default, the particular class having the main method that is the entry point. It's easy to understand. Now the question is, if many classes having the main method, then which is the entry point? Then you have to explicitly say a particular class is a public class so that it can understand the public class is the main inside the public class is the entry point for your program, not all the main functions. The public class which have the main function is the entry point of your program. And please remember, in a Java program, you can have only one public class. Otherwise, it's a compiler error. So that's why in a Java program, you can only have a public class, one public class and one entry point, that is the main function written inside the public class. Now you don't have to write it explicitly as a public class if you have only one main method, because Java compiler understand if you have a main method, then it should be the class from where I have to start. Only the confusion arise if the main function is there more than one classes, right? Then Java do not understand from where I'll start. So in that case, you need to explicitly say the class is a public class so that Java can understand this is the main from where I'll start. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Could you please explain that through some example? I mean, it's a bit difficult to capture it just verbally.
Dhanya, give an example right now to how to write a program like simple class.
I'm starting
please,
simple program.
Yeah, please extend that. Like you have to just write the main in two classes, making it public. You have to do an experiment yourself a bit. The basic thing we can tell.
Basically, sure. The basic, I mean, what's confusing is during the lectures, we understand that the file needs to be saved by the same name. And you are saying that it needs to start with something main. So I hope you are able to understand.
No. I never told something has to be start with the main.
No.
I told the program will start from the main function. That is I told you.
Yeah, so the main function, that's what I'm not able to understand. The main function.
It means compiler will enter, right? It will start from the main function. It will look for the first sentence inside the main function only. Okay. So once it's enter, so whatever first sentence is there inside the main function, it will start the execution from there only. Actually, that's the starting point. Suppose when you write a C program or C++ program, okay. So what it does, it start from the first point, right? Okay, first point, then whatever comes, it will start executing. So in Java also, the compiler, okay, they start executing the program from the inside the main method only. Because above the main method, you can have many classes, right? Above the code, you can have many classes, many codes. It doesn't execute those classes. It will come inside that particular main method, then see the first instruction, execute, then it will follow the other things. That's how it he wants to say actually.
So shall we see some examples and then probably take these questions again? I mean, if you still have doubt. Okay.
Yes,
So we'll start off with very simple, this hello world program. Okay. Class main. Okay. I want to tell you something. In Replit, there are two ways to execute a program. This is the first method. Like you first create a project, which is like, a Java project. And then inside that, by default, you have a main method. The class, the main file name is main.java and the class name is also main. I told you the class that has a void, the main method, this main and this main.java, right? Those two should be same. I can tell you where the changes are coming. Okay.
Clear. This was my doubt. Clear.
Yeah, no, hold on. 1 second. So this main.java can be student.java and this class can be student.
Right, got it.
Then the main method is still the main method. That is, there is no change. Class name can, okay. Now I'm going to just do the system dot. Okay, so system.out.println, I'll tell you what this is. Okay. So in Java, if you want to print a message, right, you have to use this big string. This string probably does not make any sense right now, but later when we learn about the packages, classes, the methods inside the built-in methods and everything, it will start making sense. For now, this is equivalent to the print method in Python. But here, because everything has to be there inside the classes, right? So there is a system class inside which there is an out class, inside which there is this println method. That is what we are invoking, and that is what we are using for printing out to any standard output console. For now, you can just take it for granted that for printing, you use the system.out.println. ln is if you want an end of line. If you do not want end of line, you can just put print. Within brackets, you put the string. Okay. Now,
is it important to add comma after hello world?
Semicolon. Sorry, comma. What is that?
After hello world, is it is comma and dot?
This one.
Yes.
Semicolon or apostrophe? Sorry, the exclamation. What do you mean?
Semicolon.
Semicolon is mandatory. After every Java statement, you put a semicolon, indicating end of sentence. See, in Python, you write everything in a new line, right? In Java, it is not necessary. Whatever code you want, you can write in a single line, but Java identifies each Java statement using this semicolon as a delimiter. Got it?
This error red sign is an error code, error thing, something.
Sometimes I don't know. Like I don't know if I put something.
Because we used to get in Python actually for indentation error.
Yeah, sometimes Replit takes time to identify when you have removed the wrong thing also. That's probably a problem with Replit. Now there is no red, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I click on the run, right? So you see the hello.world. Okay. There is another way to run this program, which is using the shell that I will tell you.
Then, sorry to interrupt. Just a question. When you are seeing the semicolon, I'm trying to understand. So, for example, in one line, it means that we can say int x, and then we can. I'm declaring a variable, and we can write system.out.println. That is what it means. One line. You can write
this. This is like this hello world exclamation has come down, right?
Yeah.
This is your doubt, no? Can we write it like this? This is correct?
If we remove the semicolon,
I cannot remove the semicolon.
I cannot remove.
Yeah, if I put it like this, it is still acceptable, is what I'm saying. It will still print hello world and hello world 2 in 2 different lines.
Okay.
Because the semicolon acts as a delimiter.
Ma'am, can you write something about the public static void main? Can you write something?
Yeah, I will tell you. I will tell you what this is. So, as Arup was saying, so we have 2 different kind of variables, right? Not 3 different kind of variables: local variables, instance variables, and class variables, right? So local variables are the ones which are like within a block, say for instance, for loop or while loop, or even within a method or whatever, right? Whatever are the variables which are specific to a class, or rather instance specific. I told you the case of S and S1 having different names, right? Those are the instance variables. The third type is the class variable, where we put something like static. In the case of methods, we put this prefix static to denote that this method does not need an instance of the class to be invoked. This method can be invoked even without an instance of this class. Static methods can be invoked without an instance of the class. So main method, because that is the entry point, right? I mean, at that point, we have not created any object, right? So we cannot use any object to invoke the main method. We have to first go inside the main method, and then only we can start creating objects. So the main method has to be such that it does not need any object to invoke it. And that is why the main method is always declared as a static method. That is the reason for putting static in the static, modifier in front of the main method.
So ma'am, we don't require any object for this class main. That's why we're putting static over there.
We don't need any object of class main to be able to invoke the method main.
Okay.
I will show you. Okay?
Yeah, please, ma'am.
So now if I want to show you a different way of doing it, because Replit kind of limits you from doing this because you need to have the main classes. Now I'm going to rename this class. Okay, I'm going to have it as a student. Okay. And this will become now student. You get this point, no? The Java file name is student, so the class name is also student. The class which contains the main method is also the name of the Java file. Got it, no? So this is one change I have made. Now, if you run this, it will say that I cannot see the main. Because the class that, so it's actually executing the other one, still executing the old one. I'll just refresh this. Let me see. It's still executing the old class. So let me remove the. See, now because earlier the main dot class was still there, that's why it was executing. Now I removed the class file. So it says could not find or load main class main. So it is expecting some class of main where it is looking for this public main method. But it is not necessary that we always have to put it inside the main class, right? So we can do something like this. And then in Replit, how you have to do is you have to go to the shell. Okay. And there are two steps. So yesterday and in the last class, I mentioned about converting to something called as class file and then executing it, right? So you have an intermediate stage, which is generating the class file. So generating the class file from the Java file is done using the Java C command, Java C, followed by the next parameter will be student.java. Now this is compiling and it will give me a, if I see the, see, you can see the student.class file generated here, right? So when you do this Java C student.java, it is creating student.class file inside the same folder. Now you are going to execute the class file. How are you going to do that? You use a simple Java command and you put simply student, no dot class, Java student. Now you're going to execute this and it prints hello world. So if you run directly using the run method, right? This is specifically for Replit. The problem with Replit, it will look for a main class where it expects the main method. If you do not want to do that, you can use this console just like any Java command prompt where you use the Java C command first to generate the class file and then you use the Java command to run the generated class file. This is the way to compile the Java. You can use IDEs. Whatever IDEs you are using, they all have specific ways of doing it. You will simply have a run button and all that. So you can use all that. That's no problem. But this is internally how it is happening. Even when you're clicking on this run, even when it was main, it was still doing the Java C followed by the Java internally.
Just a quick question to complete this thing. Now with the second command, I know you have written Java student, but just from the concept standpoint, is it taking student.class to execute or student.class?
No. So if I remove rm star.class, right? If I now run Java student, so it will still have the student.java. Okay. It still has a student.java. Now I am running Java student. It says it cannot find.
So it needs
you have
class.
To, you have to find the. You have to have the .class file. Yeah, but implicitly you don't have to use .class extension because it means student.class. That's it.
Okay. And this is something that is problem with Replit only when we are using some other.
No, problem with Replit is only the main. It is looking for the class named main to have the method named main. That's it.
Okay.
In other IDEs, you can have this. There is no problem. You can have student. In Replit also, you can have this. Only thing, in Replit, if you want to use a class name different from main, then you have to use the shell. Otherwise, you can use the console and click on the, if you are okay to have the main method inside a class named main itself, then you can directly click on the run button and you'll see the output on the console.
Got it. Thanks.
Got it, no? Okay. Now we'll look at the other things. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, somebody was asking about the string args, right? Someone was asking about string args, right? Why we need the. Did someone ask? I said we'll come to that. Or was it different question? Okay, so I'll just tell you what the purpose of this is. Probably not very important, but I'll just tell you still. So string args, okay, string, just like any Python method or Java method, this variable name can be anything. So I know people have been confused with the word apples and oranges and all that. That is still okay. You can have any variable. It just has to be of type string array. The variable name can be anything. It's just, people use args, that's it. It can be anything. It has to be of type string. You can still have something like oranges or something. That's also okay. It will still allow you. What it does is, so where does the main method get the argument from, right? So you are not invoking the main method. When you're simply running Java student, the main method is getting invoked, right? So you are not passing any argument to that. However, if you want to pass some argument to the main method, you can do it through command line arguments. You know of command line arguments? Have you heard of command line arguments?
Yes.
Has anyone not heard of it?
I've heard.
Okay. Anyone else who doesn't know of command line arguments?
Me.
Okay, I will tell you what it is. See, for instance, you are running here Java, right? So I have to, whatever, even if I change a small alphabet, I still have to compile it again. Okay. So I'm going to generate the Java class file again. I hope the screen is visible, right?
Yes, it is visible.
Now I'm going to write Java. Okay, before that, I have to make use of this parameter. I'm going to say I'm compiling it again because I edited the code. Now I am running Java student. Okay. A, B, C, and D, F. Now, these two are the command line. This is the command, right? Java, I mean, the command prompt is what we say this, no? The shell prompt or command prompt or whatever. Whatever we give as arguments in this command line, that is the command line argument that goes into the main program. So the oranges variable will get these two. Oranges is a string array, right? That string array will take these as the first value of that string will be this, the second value of that string will be this, etc. So if you run this, see, it is just printing the A, B, C, and D, E, F. Can you see that?
Yes.
Is it clear? I mean, is it visible?
So just to paraphrase my understanding, string square bracket is the type, right? Is a
correct. Array of strings.
Type. Yeah, array of strings. Okay, fine. Correct. So this has to be this way, and the oranges can be anything.
Yeah, this variable can be anything. This is a variable, just like any other variable.
Okay.
And
so
this
can
be
oranges
of any other type.
Oranges.
Array way of any other type.
Sorry?
Ma'am, I didn't understand the
Ma'am,
part.
this strings array, it stores values of type string. Now, if I want to store values of type int, can I use int there?
No, you have to use specific methods to convert the string to whatever type it is.
No, ma'am. He's saying like instead of string, can I use int?
No, that's what I'm saying. You can take it as only string. If you want to use it as an integer, you have to convert it to an integer.
Okay, but
you can accept it on, yeah, even this 1 and 2, yeah, even this 1 and 2, what it's accepting, yeah. This 1 and 2, whatever it is accepting as strings.
Okay, ma'am.
If you want to manipulate, say you want to add or divide or something, you have to convert into int specifically by using specific Java functions.
So in the code where you have written string square, can we write over there int and orange and then give some other input?
No, that's what I'm saying. You cannot use.
Okay.
This.
Cannot.
See, for a method which is defined inside Java, the main method is clearly defined. It has to take an array of strings only. See, for instance, you know the sort method, you know the len method in Python, right? Inside the len method, can you give a simple integer? I mean, I don't know if you can do that, but yeah, certain things like, len it actually expects a certain set of data type, right? The method, because the method is pre-configured inside the compiler saying that, okay, it can only take such a set of parameter.
So that means the
Java,
first line has to be this way only.
First line has to be this way only. Only thing that can change is this variable name.
This way, oh, okay. Fine.
This variable name can change, but the other structure will always be the same.
So again, interpreting orange is 0. How will you say that's an array where the first value is A, then the second value is B.
Yeah, in Python you access array, not the list like that. It's like a list in Python.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, you cannot say it's just strictly like a list in Python, but very much like how you access the elements in the list, no? L of 0, L of 1, etc. Right? This is just like that. Okay. Shall we move on? Now I'm going to declare the instance variables for this. Okay, private string, roll number. Maybe I'll just put this as empty just so that you know.
And what was the word? Now you are explaining instance variable. What was
Correct.
the terminology that you used for the earlier thing? Oranges, what would we call them?
No, oranges is nothing. I mean, that is local to the main method, right? So it's a local variable only.
Local variable.
Yeah, okay. For main specifically, because this is coming like this, you say command line argument. That's it.
Okay, fine.
But otherwise, oranges is only a local variable. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. Now I am going to write method say private. Sorry, public. Okay. Now all that I have done is I have written two methods. The first one is has a return type integer and it returns the roll number, which is the instance variable of this class. Okay. And there is another method, which is get name, which returns a type string, which is returning the name, which is the instance variable of the class. Okay. That's all what it is doing. Okay. Now, if I put this main method here, I won't be able to explain why the main private does not work, because the private variables can be accessed within the main method here because it's within the same class. I will put it inside another class. Say, I'll tell you why I renamed this. So I'm going to put it as student template s equal to new sorry. Okay. Now, why I change the name is because I'm moving the main method here, right? So I don't have to rename the Java file. No? That's why I have just renamed this as student and this class as student template. There is no confusion in that, I hope.
Yeah, no confusion.
Got it, no? So I have created one class student template here, another class student here. Now the student class has the main method inside which I'm creating an object of the student template class, right? Now I'm going to print the I should have copied it. Maybe before that, I will just show. Okay. Now what I'm doing is I have created an object of the student template class, and I have just invoked the method get roll number for this object S. So S dot get roll number. Then I have invoked the S dot get name method. And because this is returning a variable of type, value of type string, I have declared a variable of type string. Here I've declared a variable of int. Is this clear? Does anyone have any doubt on this?
But where does roll number and name get initialized? I mean, there is no.
Yeah, that's right. It doesn't get initialized. For that, I'm actually motivating the idea of constructors.
Okay.
Okay. So for those who know Java, yeah.
Sorry, why can't we put the whole student thing into student templates? I didn't get that part. The main.
No, we can put that. We can put that. See, if I put this one inside the student class, then these variables are private. No, then I don't even need these methods.
Okay. So you're just illustrating.
So I want to demonstrate. Yeah, I want to demonstrate that. So people who are not new to Java, please ignore this conversation. I'm just coming to that. So these variables, whatever are the private variables, cannot be accessed from an outside class without using a method which has been given by that class. That's what I wanted to show. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So I'll just compile this. Let us see.
Can you please clear the screen, ma'am?
Yeah, I'm just doing that. Sorry. Yeah, I'm doing it. I've compiled it. Now I'm going to run this. Okay. Now it is returning 0 and null, which means that the roll number of the student S is 0 and the string is null. Instance variables are assigned some values by default whenever we are creating an object of a class. So when we created an object S, right, this S student template, the instance variable say, which is integer, roll number is in type of integer, so it is instantiated with 0. This is of type string, which is object, so it is getting assigned with the value of null. What we want is, we want to have a student with a specific name and a student with a specific roll number, right? So how do you do that? Simply, if you give like this, then you cannot assign a name and a roll number to a student, right? That is not possible. So how do you do that? You can actually use what are known as constructors. Okay. So.
And how will we be able to access the values of roll number and name when these like variables are private?
I'm not using it. I'm using this method, which is public, no?
Which is getting a private
get roll number and get name. These are public methods. So the variable directly, I cannot access it using say S dot roll number. I cannot do that. Because the student template class has told me, okay, you can use this get roll number method to access this class, I'm able to use it. If it had not given this method, I cannot use a roll number. Do you get that? So the idea of, this is the idea of encapsulation. Okay, you are encapsulating the data such that you are able to access the data only through the methods or the operations which are provided by the type itself. You cannot directly access the private variable. You have to use certain methods to access these variables, the value of these variables. So suppose you have the roll number stored here, and the student class does not want you to access it directly. Maybe it's just going to do some encrypting. Encrypt roll number is what is going to happen. And it will have another encrypt method, which is a private string. See, I'm just telling you why this is important. Okay, I'm just saying. Okay, some int A. And here it is doing some, I'm not sure, it is doing some encrypting using some password scheme or some encoding or something it is doing, and it is returning only the encrypted value to the
multiplication by 2.
Multiplication by 2, correct. You can probably have this sort of int and then say that, okay, I'm going to return 2 into it, right?
Yeah.
This is the encryption. The user who is going to use this get roll number has no idea that the roll number is not actually this whatever value it has got. It is actually half of what it got, right? But it doesn't know. It will know only what has been given by the student template class. Got it, no?
So,
So it's kind of protecting the data.
like we have the ATM cards, right? If we like online, only the last 4 digits are shown. So if we have private like ATM card number.
No,
and,
no, this is not that concept. This is not the concept.
Not like I'm just asking
Okay, so you can say
concept,
get
yeah.
last 4 or something. When you say
Yeah.
get ATM number, then this code will return only the last 4 digits is what you mean.
Yeah. So like, yeah. So
Yeah,
is it
see,
like
you can have, I mean, that is one way to look at it, but probably what you are talking about is something slightly different. But yes, you can look at it that way also. Like, I mean, if you want to have the 4 digits only returned, then you can write your own method that it returns only the last 4 digits of the ATM card. That is also possible. That is one way to look at it, but generally that's probably not how it is done. But the idea of
Coming back
the
to what you
private
were
method and public
explaining,
method. Yeah.
What you were explaining, private int encryption cannot be accessed by the class student, right? That is what you were trying to explain.
Correct. It has no access to, correct. It has no access to the encrypt method, but the get roll number method has access because the encrypt and the get roll number are within the same class.
And get is like just like you have given a name. It's not necessary.
No, you can have anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Display or return, show or
Fine. Got it.
Whatever you want, you can do that.
Okay.
That's not a problem. Okay. So the idea is the roll number should be available to the calling method or calling class only based on how the student template class wants to make it available. I think Mehak, you asked the doubt, right? Is it clear for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What you were saying is this is private. Why are we still able to access? Is it what you're saying, right? Here, because just we are returning the roll number as such, you feel that it is as good as making it public. But that is not always the case, is what I'm saying. It could be in some, some particular format or some particular encryption or some particular encoding or something which is given by the student template class, which is made available to the other class, the calling class and method. Okay.
Just a quick question. I know it's bad practice, but if you just say public integer roll number, public int roll number, then does it become accessible to other classes?
Yeah.
So you could just directly access data.
Yes, you can write s dot roll number.
You can directly write s dot roll. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So unless there is a method, we cannot modify the roll number and name. Is that it?
Correct. That's correct. You need to have even accessing, not just modifying. Even for accessing, you need a method. Even for simply reading also, you need a specific method which is given by the student template class, is what I'm saying. Not even modifying.
Okay. So that's like the protection.
That's like you call it the encapsulation. You're encapsulating data within the class and you're giving methods so that it can access.
Just one more question. Line number 8, you have written public int get roll number. Now, correct. I'm just trying to understand. In line number 2, we have given the variable roll number, correct. Small r. What will happen if we remove get and make r as small? Will it generate some error or the brackets?
So these are things you have to just try out and I mean, you just have to keep. These are all like things which are sometimes permitted by the language, sometimes not permitted. These are like very much a language specific. You can just try out all those things. I'm not sure how.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it works. Maybe we can try it at some point. Yeah. Okay, so let me just come to the concept of the constructor. Okay, this is the main thing which I wanted to tell you about. Okay. Now we know that this is, yeah.
Can we change the position of variable and methods in student template class?
You want to put it below?
Yeah.
Yeah. Something like this?
Work?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's no problem. That's not a problem. You can put it there. You can put it there. That's not a problem.
In Python, it won't work.
Yeah, because it's an interpreted language, no?
Right, right.
Okay. Yeah. So you can try it out. Doesn't work, let me know. Okay. I mean, I have never put it below because it always used to look odd. So never tried, but definitely it should work is my understanding. Yeah. Okay, so let me, sorry.
Right now.
Huh?
At least you should try it right now.
I think you should try it later, okay? Because these are like things which you can just try.
Yeah, it will work. It will work.
Okay.
Trial and error. Trial and error, you can try it. See, we are not coming to the main concept, main thing, which is constructor. Without constructor, you can't instantiate an object. Okay, so let's come to that first. Okay. Okay, so
like Python, we do not have any constructor method here, right?
that's what I'm coming to. That's what I'm coming. Constructor method is there. Yeah, it's you cannot call it method. We call it as a constructor only. I don't even know whether we can call it as a method, but yeah, coming to that. Okay. So what you want to do is now you want to assign, say, suppose S is a student object, which stands for, say, one of the students here. Let me just look at the names of the students here. Okay, I can see Abhishek, Gupta, and Apul. Okay, two students I'm going to take, Abhishek and Apul. Okay. So first S1, I'm going to say S, and then I'm going to have another student, say, student. Just copy this. Now, S should represent Abhishek's data and S1 should represent Apul's data. Okay. How do I modify this code? Now, what I want to do is, I want to assign some roll number and name for each of these variables, right? Each of these student objects. I can do that using this. This is known as a constructor. So this is actually creating an object. This is done using what is known as a constructor of the class. A constructor is something like a special method. So it has the syntax of a method only, something like method, but does not have a return type because the constructor is always returning like the object of that particular class. It's by default understood. So there is no return type for this. So you have the access modifier, you have the constructor name, then you have the parameters, and then you open and close braces, just like the other method, except that doesn't have a return type or a static keyword or anything like that. Okay. Now, how do I do this? I can actually declare a constructor here, say, which takes, say, some int A and the string or something like P. Okay. This means that I can have a constructor, I can invoke the during the creation of the object, I can pass two arguments to this constructor, which means that here the int will be, say, 1 comma shake and 2 comma Apul. I'm saying that I'm going to define a constructor which will take two values. One is the roll number, the other is the name. So how do I assign these values to the instance variables? The instance variables I will assign as roll number equal to A and name equal to B. What is happening is when I'm giving this statement, right? Inside the memory, as I showed you, there is a space allocated for S and there is a space allocated for S1. The 1 is assigned to the roll number field of S by this assignment. If I don't put this assignment, then that does not happen. Because I put this assignment saying that, okay, whatever argument is coming, the first one, right, that is a roll number for me. And the second one, whatever is coming, it is the name of the student. I'm using this constructor to initialize two objects. One student object S, the other student object S1. The first student object stands for Abhishek. The second one stands for Apul. And this is done using the parameterized constructor. So this constructor has parameters. The earlier one was, there was no argument constructor. It does not have any arguments, right? When we simply gave new student template, no, we did not even put the constructor. You remember, we did not even have a constructor. By default, it initialized it to 0 and null. That is actually something that the JVM gives you, a default constructor. Even if you don't write a constructor, it'll give you a no argument constructor and it will invoke an employee or student or whatever by these default values. Whereas if you want to override, or if you want to have a new constructor, not override, sorry, excuse that word. If you want to have a new constructor which will take these parameters and you want to initialize the instance variables of this class, then you write a constructor on your own with the number of arguments that you need. And then when you invoke an object, when you create an object, you create using these arguments provided to the constructor. So now this constructor, right, this one, this is actually invoking this. And 1 is going into A for S1. The first time this is done, there is an object S allocated memory in the heap. There, the 1 is getting assigned to the S dot roll number, whatever, and S dot name is getting assigned with Abhishek. The second statement is executing. There is a set of memory locations which is allocated for the object S1, and here the roll number is getting updated as 2 and the name is getting updated as 2. Is this clear for everyone?
And the class name and the constructor name has to be the same, right?
Same, exactly.
Okay. There is no alternate, like you can have a say student temp or something and then invoke it.
Then
by
how will this thing know that there is a class like that? Right?
No, I was just thinking if like new student template dot student temp or something, like there is no other way of doing it like that. This has to be understood like this only. Or maybe
yeah, so the thing is, like, if you have a different name, right? I mean, it will possibly identify it as a different method, and then it will say, give a compiler error, this is not an identified method. I mean, the method does not have a return type or anything. Because you know you want a constructor, but that doesn't know it all, right? The compiler doesn't know. There is no other way to do that. You cannot put student template dot anything. I mean, at least not as far as I know.
Okay. So now just trying to understand the grammar of the language.
Yeah. Oh. So there is another way to do that. You can define another. So, yeah, somebody is asking something.
I mean, it is just like an init method in Python, right?
Yeah. So the purpose is the same, but there are differences, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to pass a self or something inside, right? For Python.
Yeah, self will be there everywhere pretty much.
Yeah, here you don't have to. By default, it means self only. So in fact, you can do something like this. Okay, that I'll come to later. Maybe that's slightly more confusing, but I'll come to that. Okay. You can have a constructor like this also inside this. This is also a permitted constructor. Along with the 2-argument constructor, you can have one argument constructor also. And then you say, okay, I have a student 2 whose name I don't know. I have only the roll number. This is also possible. Do you get it?
So could I also have, instead of int a, can I also have name and then pass just the name, right? I mean, I guess both of that will work.
Yeah. They are equivalent only, right? You can have string name. And
when I pass these arguments, can I also say a is equal to 2 in the initiation?
No.
I can't do that.
You
right?
do it in Python, right? You can't do it here.
Correct. Okay. It's just the order.
It's the order of the arguments, yes.
Okay.
In S2 object, we're not passing any name. So what will be the value of name?
It will be null, no? Just like we saw it for a no argument constructor, we saw that the name is getting initialized to null. Here also it will get initialized to null for S3.
For S2, you mean, right?
Sorry, S2, sorry. S2. Yeah, there is no S3, sorry.
Ma'am, can we have default values?
Sorry?
Can we have default values?
Different values for what?
Default as in
default values for parameters.
Yeah, just like we do in Python. Like
no, that's what I said. No, that equal to something that you cannot do. First of all, secondly, by default, the instance variable is assigned this null and 0 and all that based on the data type of it by Java itself.
No, I think in Python, what happens is that when you're doing the constructor, there you can say if nothing is passed, then default it to something.
Okay, no, that we cannot.
So Dhanya,
See,
the
here
next,
you can do, here inside this you can do. See, whatever you are actually defining this constructor, no? So you can say
You can
name
say if
equal
this
to
is null. Okay.
new name or something. Something like this you can do. That's not a problem.
Right.
You cannot do it via the argument is what I mean. You can do it like this.
so Dhanya, this S1, S2, what we are writing, Java does not have any limitations that we can give the values through the input, right? I mean, this looks a bit odd. We are coding and we need to have all this 1, Abhishek, 2, Apul, 3, whatever from as an input, right?
Yeah.
So we are writing as of now in the code itself, but we need to have these values as an input. Then
that you can do that. Yeah, you can do it.
Okay.
Yeah, you can put it like sc dot. So S, okay, that I have to put it here. So
He
you
is
have
asking for scanner.
Yeah. So this is how you take input from in Java. You put it as system.in, meaning it's a standard input console. Okay, whatever standard input is there, that is what the. Okay, so scanner is a class, SC is an instance of this class. These are standard things. These are all by default used for taking input from the keyboard.
I see.
Okay, system.in. Now what you have to do is here I want to take the parameter from this. So I'm putting next int. Sorry, not next. So from the standard input keyboard, right? You input an input a roll number for me, and that I am going to print S2 here. S2 dot get roll number. Okay. Let us see what we can do here. Okay, so here, if scanner is not there, you have to import. So these things you may be knowing, only thing the syntax will be different. So the scanner is there inside what is known as java.util.star package. Those things will come to it later. Now it's simple demonstration, right? So just whatever extra things I'm typing, please take it for granted for now. Now it is not printing anything. It's actually waiting for data from me. Okay, because I put next to 10. Now it says 10 and Abhishek because 10 is of S2 and name is of S. So it's printing S dot get name and S2 dot get roll number, right? So S2 now got the. So if I put S2 dot get name, what will it print?
Null.
Null.
Why?
A new name. It will print new name, right?
Because I have initialized it to new name, right?
New name, right?
Got it, no?
Yes.
Is this clear for everyone? So you can take input and you can give it. So for there are different ways of taking input. You want to take a full line, you put next line. You want to take only a string, you take sc dot next. Those things will come that you will learn eventually. You don't have to worry about those things, no? But this is how you take input in general. Okay. Yeah. Any questions on this?
A constructor can change the default value.
Sorry, constructor can change the default value. Whatever you want to write. See, you can put roll number A into 2, right? This will be the roll number for you. It's not necessary that you have to do that. You can just put it like this also. Got it? No, whatever you put it inside the constructor or define inside the constructor, that will be updated. Okay. Any other questions, anyone? So did I not answer anybody's question? I said I will answer some. Any questions which I have left unanswered? Can you remind me?
Dynamic lookup.
Sorry?
There were some questions on dynamic lookup this week.
Questions on?
Dynamic lookup.
questions on dynamic lookup and
Okay, dynamic lookup, right?
And also the concept which basically you left unanswered in the last live session that
Which was that?
We are asking one graded assignment question because
So that I went back and checked. So see, you have to do some Googling and try to figure it out. I don't want to answer the graded assignment question, but there is a Stack Overflow post clearly explaining the scope of these things. So you please go and check it. I don't want to answer it here. About the activation record, right? For the outer scope function, the outer scope and nested function, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went and Googled it up and it is there. So please, you may have to refer to 1 or 2 pages and please try to figure it out. Okay, I don't want to discuss the graded assignment question.
Okay.
It is there. It is very much there on this thing. I mean, you can clearly figure it out by a quick search. Okay.
No, in extent of that question, I just wanted to ask one thing. Like earlier you mentioned that activation record is kind of a programming, like language specific. So is that the scenario there, like in Python activation records?
No. See, activation record is what I meant by activation record is programming language specific is the feature of nested functions. That is programming language specific is what I meant.
Okay.
One function calling another function, putting these activation records into the stack, right? That is kind of universal, I can say. I mean, I'm not sure of many new programming languages and we don't know how to implement. In general, we can say that is how it happens in almost all the programming languages. You have the first main method which is being put into it. Of course, for Java, we can say that for sure. Now, main method, whichever methods it invoke, the first method puts in there. Once execution is over, it brings it out and everything. What I was telling about is nested functions. One function being defined inside another function, not invoking another function. One function being defined inside another function. How the activation record the scope works is something that is specific possibly to the programming language implementation.
Fine.
And Dhanya, the concept of this in the constructors, there is a concept of this dot.
That I will explain.
That we will in the next week that will be there.
No,
right?
I will just explain it now. Okay. See, the parameter can also, in this case, this parameter can also have the same name as the instance variable. It is okay. This instance variable and this parameter name can have the same variable name. Okay. Now, when I say roll number equal to roll number, I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? Both of these are the same roll number. So, in order to distinguish between the two, I use this dot, meaning this roll number is the instance variable of this particular instance. This particular instance, which is say S2 is coming, means this roll number is the variable of this particular instance and this roll number is the local variable. That is the purpose of this. Just to mention that this dot whatever comes means these are the variables specific to that instance of the class.
So this dot roll number is a local variable, right?
No, this dot roll number is the instance variable. This is to indicate that this is a instance variable for that particular object, this particular object. This roll number is the local. I'm going to take the value of the whatever is the argument which is coming for this constructor, that is actually on the right, and that is being assigned to the instance variable. So this dot roll number refers to the instance variable of this particular instance.
This dot, ma'am. This dot roll number. This is confining the first roll number that is in the left hand side to the student template one.
The one on the left hand side is the one for the student template instance S2, S or S1 or whatever. It is specific to that instance.
It is specific, and also like, can we use this THIS, this thing? What is this called, ma'am? This dot roll number. This part, what is it called something else, or it is only referred to as this only?
I don't know. Arup, is there any specific terminology for that? As far as I know, this is this
what
one,
I
right?
didn't get it. Can you repeat?
No, is there any specific terminology for that this keyword?
This is a reference. These and super are reference. This is a reference to current objects. Super is a reference to the parent object.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. And also one thing like this reference, this current object reference, we can use it for any other functions also other than the constructor.
Yeah, you can call any function, any member of the current object using this.
Okay. Okay.
It's practically
Only
like
within
self,
static
right?
method, only within the static method, you cannot use this. Whenever you read the static method, you can understand.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So see, within the methods, right, you may not need to use it unless there is this confusion, right? I mean, if you use the same variable is only when you need to use it. So if it is a different variable, say A, right, you don't need to use this because then it is very clear. There is no confusion between which variable you are referring to. Only if this has the same variable name, you need to use it. You can actually use it even otherwise. See, even now you can use this dot. There is no problem. It will still work. But you need not use it because there is no confusion between which roll number it is referring to. So this is generally used when you have the a clash between the variable names, right? The same variable name coming inside the method definition.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So dynamic method lookup, right? So that, see, dynamic method lookup is something that is more understandable after you learn this extends keyword and all that. Okay, I told you, I started off with that question example last time, right? You have a question and then you have an MCQ, then you have an NAT and all that, right? So method, depending on the runtime, what okay, so without Java, I can tell you like briefly. So with Java, if you want to take an example, it will take much longer. So should I, maybe I'll just give a small example. No, but it will take a longer time. So
Maybe you can conceptually explain it now, and so we can have.
yeah, conceptually. So the thing is, okay, maybe I'll switch to the other one.
I guess we're going to learn the implementation part of this anyway, the following week.
Yeah, so you have an employee class, okay? You have a manager that extends employee. Okay, this is not the right syntax at all. I'm just explaining it conceptually. And you have, say, another class from which, say, some test class or something from which you are actually instantiating. Say, employee E equal to new employee. And employee M equal to new manager. Okay. You have a, say, display method here. And you have a display method here. Okay. Give me a second. Now, if I say E dot display, what happens? And M dot display, what happens? This is the dynamic lookup decision. Okay. Are you able to see this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, see, during compilation time, E is a reference which points to an employee object, right? M is of type E, but it points to manager object, right? This is employee object, and this is manager object. That is what is meant by these two, okay? So this is of type E and this is of type E. sorry, type employee, and this is also of type employee. But during runtime, it is pointing to an employee object and M is pointing to a manager object. Now, when we are invoking e.display and m.display, what happens is during compilation time, it checks whether this object has the capability to invoke this method. This object has the capability to invoke the display method. That is whether that method is what the capability that Arup explained about, right? You have the method definition inside, or method is there specified inside that particular class. Whether that capability is there is something that is decided during compilation time. During runtime, however, if you're saying e.display, it will display the invoke the display method inside the employee class, and m.display will invoke the method display method inside the manager class. This is a simple idea of dynamic method dispatch. During runtime, the decision on which display method is to be invoked is taken. During compilation time, it will only check whether the method is there. During runtime, it will decide which display method is to be invoked. This is the dynamic method dispatch. So what do you mean by capability, right? So suppose I write so I have, say, another method. I have, say, another method show here. Okay. Now, if I put e.show, even m.show, right? Even this both will generate compiler error. Even though manager object has the method show, it will still generate a compiler error because this is an object which is of type employee, and employee class does not have the show capability. Okay. The employee class does not have the show capability. So even though manager class has the show method, it will still give an, so this e.show anyway does not have any relevance because employee class and employee object does not have. So if you invoke m.show, it will give a compilation error because the employee object, this is M is still an employee object. It is pointing to a manager object, that's different. But it is of reference type, which is employee, of type employee. It does not have the show method, hence it will throw a compiler error. But however, in this case, both the methods are there. And during compilation time, the M, it knows that the M has the capability because the employee class is a capability. However, during runtime, the display method inside the manager class is invoked. Okay, we'll deal with it in more detail later. This is the basic concept about it.
Sure.
Arup, please correct me if I'm wrong. Is this correct? No, you want to explain it? Yes. Arup, it's fine, right? Are you on the call? Fine. Yeah.
Yes.
It's fine, right?
Yeah.
We can explain it more detail, like when we come to inheritance.
Yeah.
And,
yes.
okay.
Without inheritance, it is difficult.
Yeah. So because the dynamic method, dynamic dispatch is there in the, no, dynamic lookup, right? That's the word, yeah. Dynamic lookup is there in the first week. I think that's why they're asking. So this is the basic idea, okay. Whether the capability is there is one thing, but whichever is getting executed during runtime depends on the object to which it is pointing to during the runtime. Runtime is when this allocation happens, right? The new manager, that allocation is happening during runtime. No? That is allocated in the heap. So heap is synonymous with dynamic allocation. And whatever is happening at that time, right? That decision of which method to invoke is taken during runtime. That is why we call it as dynamic. Okay. Is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So somebody was asking, okay, I will stop the teaching part here. The remaining, like I think somebody was asking an activity question, right? Let me just go to that. What was the activity question? Week 1, AQ 1.5 or something, right? Is whoever asked, are they here? I don't remember what the question was. Does anyone remember? Does anyone have any doubt in the questions? Can you just let me know? Okay. Okay, then I think I'm not sure which question to discuss. So if you have any doubt, please post on discourse. Okay. We'll wind up the session. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.